I welcome you to the professional world premiere of Adam Pasen's new play, Tea with Edith and FITZ. Before we get started, a couple of things. You'll see one of these in your program. As one of our missions is the development of new work by living writers about dead writers, we would greatly appreciate any feedback you might have on helping us with the continual development of the show. Things that you like, things that you don't like, things that, you know, if you can't understand people or if you think something's too long. We'd appreciate it if you mark it down, give it to the ushers, and then they will put it in a basket out there. And we're also having a drawing for a sample of the cologne that F. Scott Fitzgerald wore. And this was donated by Krigler. We have 100 vials, and it's $800 an ounce.
Oh my God.
So, and it smells quite marvelous. So, anyway, put your name, your address, your email, so we can get in touch with you, and then after June the 9th, we will do a drawing. Also, our next upcoming thing, we're not going to be advertising, so I'm doing it now. July the 10th and 11th at Stage 773 in the Cabaret, we are going to be having a concert stage reading of another work that we have in progress called Loose Ends. It's about screenwriter Anita Luce and her friendship with Paulette Goddard, the movie star. Anita Luce, for those of you that don't know, wrote Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and was one of the first female screenwriters in Hollywood. And it spans from 1914 to 1979, has a cast of 17, and has characters like Charlie Chaplin, George Gershwin, Eric Maria Remarque, David O. Selznick, George Cukor. So if you've ever wondered what these people would look like on stage, right on here, Loose Ends, and then I will send you the information. We only see 80 a night, so it's going to be selling out pretty quick, and it already is. So, and also, if you get on our mailing list, we will also give you information about next year at this time at Stage 773. We will be doing a brand new, it's a Chicago premiere of a new adaptation of Emma by Jane Austen, adapted by Michael Bloom of the Cleveland Playhouse. And that will be quite a lavish spectacle to see. So once again, thank you for coming, and enjoy Tea with Edie and FITZ.
Welcome to Dead Writers Theater Collective, where classic theater is resurrected in a masterpiece theater style. We salute our donors and supporters who have made this experience possible. Now is the time to turn your cell phones off. Photographing, video recording, and texting during the performance are all strictly forbidden. Ladies and gentlemen, now please come with me. Your table is reserved for tea with Edie and FITZ. So we beat on. Boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. The Great Gatsby.
She beat me!
Stop! Look! It's pretty good, isn't it? Yes, I really think there's something here.
Did you hear what I said? She beat me.
I heard you. Well, what did you expect? To get along famously?
I expected a little gratitude, perhaps. At least to the man who wrote the title cards for the film adaptation of her novel. Glimpses of the moon.
They didn't end up using it.
That's not the... She beat me.
Does this seem too deck code to you?
Oh my God.
Because I'd really like to try something new with this one. Cubist or surrealist. Oh, I am simply mad for the surrealists, you know. Don't be surprised if next time you're back early, I'm draped over Andre Baton in flagrante delicto. Well, I assume you don't mean she beat you literally. She's probably corseted too tight to make a fist without fainting.
Would you be more inclined to listen if I said she did?
Well, that would be novel. Ironically, more so than any of the novels. I guess I would.
Yes, literally struck me, nearly gave me a black eye. Well, she was near Virago, I tell you.
All right. I'll bite. Fisticuffs give me every time. Tell me all about how literary titans Edith Wharton and F. Scott Fitzgerald faced off over tea, was it?
Earl Grey, no less.
Oh.
God, it was seared into my memory like it were yesterday.
It was a few hours ago.
Just like it were yesterday. Oh, the Jazz Age and the Gilded Age, duking it out once and for all. Well, it would make quite the movie. Maybe I could do the title cards.
Aptly
All right. Well, as you know, when she found out I was a fellow expat in Paris, the great Rock of Ages invited me to the Pavilion Cologne, and I brought Teddy along. You know Teddy Chandler. Those depressive musician types can always use a day out in the sun. Of course, that wasn't exactly what we had in store. verbatim.
Oh, and that poor Airedale Teddy just sitting there leaking pathos all over the scene. Oh, I can just see it.
He's an interesting type, Teddy. You know, he's the model for Francis Malarkey in my new novel.
Oh, Scott, you mustn't. Such a beautiful title. Tender is the night. And such a hideously named protagonist.
What would be a better name?
Anything. Anything would be better. You could call him Dick Diver.
Dick Diver.
Yes. Yes, you could call him Dick Diver, and it would be a sound choice. Not that I actually expect you to go through with it, of course.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, the Scott I married would, but this mellow facsimile who has tea with Edith Wharton and wax sympathetic over milksops like Teddy Chandler? I don't think he's got it in him.
I could do it.
Oh, sure you could.
You don't believe me?
I don't know.
I'll do it. I'll call him Dick Diver. Don't think I won't.
Dick Diver?
Mm-hmm.
You call him Dick Diver?
Wait. Oh. You don't have to mock me, Zelda. Zelda. Zelda.
I'm fine. I want to go roller skating.
Roller skating.
Yes, roller skating on top of the Arc de Triomphe. Look, you can see it right from the window. No, wait, under the Eiffel Tower. Shock those baguettes right out of their Parisian mitts.
Look, I don't know if that's the best
How
idea.
do you ever expect to name a hero Dick Diver if a little thing like roller skating's got you tied up in knots?
You're right. Let's go roller skating.
Don't be ridiculous. Can't go roller skating. I'm wearing a tutu.
I hadn't noticed.
It was in the trunk with the rest of my old clothes. It was the only one that didn't get ruined when I...
Zelda.
Recognize it? Black with gold lace. From the first picture I ever sent you from Montgomery when you went back to St. Paul.
Of course I do.
It even still has the little danglers I sewed on it. See? I'm recapturing my youth. I'm a Southern Belle. Get it?
You're my Southern Belle.
Am I for whom your bell tolls?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Isn't that what Ernest said? What your great friend wants to call his next masterpiece?
Zelda.
All right, so I'm a belle then, but I'm more than that too. Scott, I'm gonna be an artist.
Wonderful. Just so long as you don't get paint all over the walls. It's the third hotel we've lived in this year. I'd like to unpack at least before we get the boot.
Oh, I hate a room without an open suitcase. Seems so permanent. But there's always more hotels and more money and more booze. It's the boom, Scott, times aplenty. But I don't care about material things. I just want to live, be a painter for starters.
Of course. And you know, I think some of these are actually quite good. You shall promise, without a doubt.
And I'm gonna be a ballerina too.
Well, it may be a little late to be a professional, but at 25 you can still achieve some distinction in your craft. Maybe even teach.
Agorba has agreed to coach me privately, train me, and if all goes well, invite me into the ballet Russe.
That's,
Incredible? Unlikely. I agree, but it's true. And see the skin? It's all clear. I'm better. Because I have purpose again. I'm gonna paint, Scott!
grand!
And I'm gonna dance!
Wonderful!
And Scott, I'm gonna write.
We cannot tear out a single page of our life, but we can throw the whole book in the fire. George Sand.
Got it, Mrs. Wharton. You can relax.
Too late, I am afraid. Rosie! Rosie? Oh, come here, baby.
Yes, been waiting for you all morning, Edith.
Oh, yes, dear Mama missed you. You know, Rosie, you can say what you want about the larger breeds, but someday I think every young lady is going to carry a tiny toy dog with her, perhaps in her satchel. And she will take it everywhere with her. And it will be a sign of good breeding and intelligence. Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Well, that is all well and good, miss, but now it is time for Eastpass.
All set, Mrs. Wharton.
In a moment. Rosie, I want a picture with the dog, like I took after Teddy and I. Well, don't just stand there.
Oh, Edith, not on your new silk.
Don't I pay people to clean my silk? Now come here and
Shall I come back later?
stay put. even blink at that awful, awful light. You are excused.
Edith, just as I said, little paw prints all over your dress.
I imagine I can afford a new dress if I must.
But can you afford a new Catherine Gross when I keel over from exhaustion?
What a shame you never had the inclination to write, Grossi. With such a flair for drama, you would outsell the age of innocence in a fortnight.
As you can see, I have my hands full. And while we're on the subject, this came for you by the post today.
What is it?
Cannot say, comes from New York, Scribner's.
Scribner's? Ah, must be the proofs for the new edition of The Age of Innocence. I was almost apoplectic over the last. No surprises this time. I told Charles, simple binding, no gilt or unnecessary etching, and a good strong fabric. Green, maybe.
What is it?
I cannot say. It is not mine. The Great Gatsby. Edith, the latest by a very promising young writer. Did the title cards for glimpses. Much obliged if give a read. Anxiously await your thoughts. Charles Scribner.
Do you know the writer?
What is there to know? These new writers are all alike. He is probably just writing to fill the lull between divorces.
Well, if any woman should be understanding on the topic of divorce, miss, I should seek it with you.
Yes, as a solemn possibility, not a casual diversion. Now it is practically de rigueur.
By Scott Fitzgerald.
Wait, Fitzgerald? Scott Fitzgerald, did you say?
You do know him.
Peripherally. That is more than enough. I seem to recall a sketch he wrote for College Humor about a group of stories conversing, and the Edith Wharton story sits alone and glares haughtily until someone tells her her climax is on crooked.
That is not bad.
You see?
Well, what is wrong with a little stand-up is all I ask. If your novels are flat parody of Henry James.
An homage, Grossi, which I handle with delicacy and taste, and which he very much appreciated.
Oh, appreciated. But was it he said about your piece for the review, the one you wrote in French, that he congratulated you on the way you managed
To pick up every old worn-out phrase that had been lying about the streets of Paris for the last 20 years and pack them into a few short pages.
And you call that a compliment?
Ah, wicked, wicked man. I find it hard to believe it is almost a decade since... At any rate, thank you for bringing this in, Grossi. If you care to return this afternoon, you can tend to it in the library, where it will most likely be accruing dust.
You're not even going to give it a look?
Well, why should I? I know what is in it. Drinking and extramarital relations, women wearing pants, and voting.
Oh, well,
I know these modernists. I have tried reading Virginia Woolf. And if you ask me, Mrs. Dalloway was just a 200-page excuse for not washing one's hair. These jazz novels are no better than jazz music, devoid of melody or restraint. Gone is tact. This is the age of indulgence. And I say, go ahead, by all means indulge. But don't expect me to read it. Besides, I wanted to continue the work on my memoir.
Of course, miss. Just ring if you need anything.
Oh, and Grossi. I am 63 years old. Do you still think it necessary to call me Miss?
You will always be Miss to me. Miss.
That was not all I said, you know.
About what, Henry?
About your story in the Revue du Monde. I was not entirely critical after all.
Oh?
Yes, if you will recall, I told Walter later that evening that it was a very credible episode in your career.
But she must never do it again.
Yeah.
Always honest to the last painful letter.
I had to be. It was the only way to console myself. You were selling so much better than I.
You were merely stern, as a mentor should be. Imagine, the first time I met you, I tried to win your approval by wearing a pretty dress. And the second time by buying a new hat. And you
Never even noticed you existed. I do hope you are not still cross over it.
Not at all. For you see, I was crushed. And I brooded. And then I realized if I wanted your attention, it must be through what I wrote, not what I wore. These young writers today want to skip the most precious phase of all, the seeking of approval. Thank heaven you were there to teach me how to wait.
Is that to be your latest bestseller then? What shall it be called? The Age of Mirth? The House of Innocence? The lonely protagonist who sacrificed love for convention, but for some reason it was noble?
A backward glance. My memoir, as you well know.
Ah, of course. Aptly named.
And just what does that mean?
My dear, you have reached your reflective phase.
Outmoded? My novels? I beg to differ. What about the glimpses of the moon? Were the lovers not jazz babies who do nothing but drink and go to parties and sponge off their rich friends?
I do not mean simply looking backward in your writing, but looking backward in your life. Well, you are looking to the past, moving in reverse. It is the first step toward death.
That is simply not true. Why, just yesterday I booked myself on an Aegean cruise, just like the one I took as a girl.
Quite the same. Recapturing is not living, Edith. Oh, you were happy on a boat once, so you do it again now. But when we are young, we sail on our youth. Now you will simply be an old woman, surrounded by fish.
Walter is coming to visit. Yes.
And Edward.
Teddy is still in Switzerland, taking the cure for his nervousness. He shall be absent. Not that he was ever particularly present as a husband. It's just more official now.
You and Walter can pick up right where you left off. When did you see him last?
Oh, not since the war. We were volunteering as correspondents, and I brought him on my trip through France.
Wise choice. He seems made for bringability. Walter always was the dominant seventh in our little chord.
We were hardly vacationing. He accompanied me to survey the devastation at the front. Well, you remember, Laurier did that cartoon of us, Don Le Ruin, with Walter looking bored and me surveying the destruction casually through my lorgnette, drawling "Ce n'est que ça."
Is that all? I was not just translating. Is there more to that story?
Oh, well, I suppose I should have resented the portrayal as a cold-hearted stoic. But when I saw myself in that cartoon, all I could think was, my God, am I that fat? A woman should never grow stout, Henry. It is the body's first betrayal. A girl thinks herself immune from time's ravages. When she thickens, that first buttress crumbles and she glimpses the abyss. To grow stout is a preview of death.
Well, that seems a bit extreme, does it not? And besides, if anything is a preview of death, it is this claret. Terrible. Well, Walter barely coming here. That is something. Oh, well, I shan't dwell on it too much. You know how overstimulation brings my stammer back on.
Where are you going?
To ponder, to mull, perhaps to go and frighten Grossi. Ghost things, you know. In the meantime, maybe you should set your memoir aside and give that novel up a funtering glance. It may help with Walter.
How?
I am told it is quite popular with the younger set, especially the ladies. Barry's fairies are sure to know it backwards and forwards.
Walter's fairies? Bah, silly, giggling little bob-haired things, hanging off of Walter and flopping out of their frocks. Eager to discuss literature, are they? We shall see. The Great Gatsby. The Henry James I know would have used a book like this for kindling and whistled while he prodded the ashes.
Death has a way of tempering one's cynicism. Besides, T.S. Eliot calls it the first step American fiction has taken since, well, me. Maybe it will resonate.
So it resonates, and then what? I ask him to call? These meetings rarely go as planned. Why, after you met Oscar Wilde, you pronounced him a fatuous fool, a 10th-rate cad, and an unclean beast.
Whether or not you end up liking him is beside the point. I've always been interested in people, but I've never liked them.
Well, what would we do?
I leave it to your discretion. Still, There are few hours in life more agreeable than the one dedicated to afternoon tea.
Have tea with him? Is that supposed to help him in some way?
Perhaps. And who knows? He may even help you.
Well, how might he do that?
In the same way that you have helped me.
Born young and grows old. That is life's tragedy. Oscar Wilde.
What time is it?
Saturday?
Time to get up!
Where are you going?
Meet Labova Gorva. You remember her, the famous ballet instructor we met the other night?
What for?
Well, we were talking and I told her I'm a dancer.
You used to dance.
Well, you haven't written a new story this week. Does that mean you used to write? Damn! I forgot to pick up coffee. Do we have anything I can put in my stomach?
I think there
Oh
might...
no, there's not enough time. Oh, how could I possibly let the entire day go by? Oh, I made a right balls up in my meeting, and now I'm never gonna make it. Never, never, never. You were saying about
I think
breakfast?
there might be half a chocolate bar. Yep. You want some?
Nah, that stuff will kill you. Besides, I'm just getting my shape back since Scotty was born.
Yeah, well, if these pass for ballerina limbs, you shouldn't have much to worry about.
You like?
I'm confused. Are they men or women?
Yes.
Well, I think you should cover them up. They'll frighten Scotty if she sees them and give her ideas.
Well, we mustn't give her ideas. I wanted to grow up to be a beautiful little fool. I mean, that's the best thing a girl can be, right?
If you say so.
Poor Scotty. She must miss her mama so much.
She's down at the end of the hall.
Proximity is not intimacy.
You could walk down the hall and see her.
Oh, I suppose I'll see her at Christmas. I don't think she's quite forgiven me for giving her a bath.
You put her in the bidet.
I thought it was a tub. Besides, I made it up to her. I gave her some of my lemonade.
That was the gin fizz, and Scotty threw up all over the tablecloth.
She never even thanked me. Oh, what shall I wear?
I think the real question is what you're not going to wear.
Well, if this was a country club in Montgomery, I'd jump up on the table and show the whole room ugliness.
Oh, and shall you at lunch?
Well, why not? Mama named me for a gypsy princess after all. And if a girl wants me to dance, I'll show her I can dance.
You know, I'm starting to see why they lock princesses in towers.
Careful, Scott. You're beginning to sound like the witch and not the prince.
You can't be a ballerina. You'll ruin those perfect feet. And then, where am I supposed to worship?
Don't you men ever want to worship us when we actually feel like God is sick?
No, come on. What's this?
What?
Envelope.
I don't know. Scotty's name he got the mail. She must have put it there.
That's another reason for you to spend more time with Scotty. We could cut the British name loose. Scotty is starting to sound like some damn little cockney.
Well, what's wrong with that? I'd like to know, Governor.
It's the Pavilion Club.
What's that then, Governor?
Don't do that. It's an invitation. Edith Wharton requests the The pleasure of my company for tea.
What?
She wants to have me for tea.
More likely have you for breakfast. Oh, you shouldn't.
Why the hell not?
After her letter on Gatsby, you let that blue stocking patronize you further. Oh, I can just picture her now.
Mr. Fitzgerald, your method in taking tea, while crude, shows a primitive kind of potential. I believe that one day with hard work, perseverance, you can become a talented tea taker indeed.
You're right, I won't go.
Don't! Oh, it's unbearable. I've read Glimpses of the Moon, and it's her only novel where the couple ends up happily together, and it's because it's about people like us. When she writes about her own era, the lovers have to be thwarted, because times were harder, social pressures, insurmountable, but we modern lovers, we jazz babies, we just have it so easy.
Maybe she just wanted to give the next generation a happy ending she never got.
I will not be condescended to. It's good you're not going.
I suppose. Probably be like one of Henry James' literary talks at Queen's Acre. You know, Hem thinks he was impotent.
Hemingway would think any man impotent who didn't club a woman and drag her off to his cave.
You know what I think?
What?
I think he was a fairy. No, plain and simple, him and that old troop of cake eaters. That architect, what's his name?
Codpiece.
Codman. And Howard Sturgis and that half a fairy Morton Fullerton all fluttering about the old fruit. You know, James had to hug each man 3 times before they could leave.
Well, we have that in common.
Guess what their nickname for Edith herself was?
What?
Pussy.
No! Probably the closest any of them ever got to a pussy in their lives.
Oh! That crazy husband of hers. Imagine inviting him to dinner and him saying, "Oh, well, I'm gonna have to check with Puss, you know. My dear Pussy calls me shots." Maybe I should accept.
What?
You know, maybe I should go just to be able to laugh about it later.
Are you joking?
No, I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody who might help me will be there. And whatever I think of her, she has cachet. But taking tea with her means one has arrived, in a sense. Maybe you should skip this lunch and come with me.
I will not be condescended to.
All right. All right. I just thought maybe we could give the old girl a shock or two. You know? Tell her how you used to play strip tennis. Take off an article of clothing every time you lost a point. Gave the term love all a whole new meaning.
Oh, I have done that, haven't I? Oh, Scott, don't go. Stay here and speculate about us and me.
But we don't have to speculate about us. We are us.
I know. Don't we sound terribly fascinating from the outside? You know, I hear the strangest story about those Fitzgeralds, that they jump into fountains and do the Charleston without a stitch of clothing on.
Go on.
They say at Princeton, Scott appeared in the papers across the country dressed as a woman to promote the variety show and was so beautiful that offers of marriage and contracts to be a female impersonator came pouring in from across the globe.
You don't say.
And that he even went in drag with his friend Bunny to a dance at the University of Minnesota where he danced with every eligible young man all evening.
And he wasn't even found out until he left his wig in the men's restroom.
May I miss?
Well, I would be delighted, sir.
Oh, I wish I could have been there. I would have dressed as a man and danced with every young lady there.
You would have been found out pretty quick.
In fact, I wish I could go back to one of those stuffy turn-of-the-century Edith Wharton balls with the guest list cast in bronze in advance. What do they call themselves? The 400.
Handpicked by that old battle axe, Mrs. Astor. Her little blue pencil hanging over the guest list like a guillotine.
Well, I'd come knocking in a top hat and tails. And if they turned me away, I'd sneak in the back with a friend and say, "Hello, I'm Zelda, and this is my pregnant Jewish lesbian Negro chum."
Whoa.
And then we dance cheek and cheek until they send the wagon.
That's indecent.
No, it isn't. It's just wild. Like wearing matching knickerbockers on our honeymoon.
Okay, but with that, I thought you were just going along with it. I didn't know you liked it.
Of course I liked it. Remember the symposium?
Oh!
We walked the earth looking for other halves. Men to women, women to women, and man to man.
Careful, Zelda. Look, we lunch with Gertrude Stein, but I won't tolerate that kind of talk in my own home. Reminds me of a song. Every time I blow my nose, I think of you, and the mellow noise it makes says I'll be true, with beers and wines, with Gertrude Steins, with all of that I'm through, 'cause every time I blow my nose, I think of you.
Well, maybe I do admire Gertrude Stein. What's wrong with that?
What? It's nothing. It's people will just think that you're
A dyke? Well, we can't have that, can we? Lesbians exist to fulfill a man's fantasies, not their own.
Zelda.
Oh, Scott, I wish you'd think about it. About what I said. About us. Since Eden, man has been endowed with the double sexual impulse. Complete sexual fulfillment between a man and a wife is homosexuality.
Crying out
it is
loud.
God's word that
Hey,
makes it
let's
so.
speculate about us some more. I hear that Scott has the biggest member of any expat on the continent.
I hear that Scott and Ernest Hemingway are having an affair.
What?
Well, that's just what they say anyway.
Who? The fairy critics probably saw that neither of us will have anything to do with them is all.
Well, Scott, there's always been a hint of the masculine in me and a hint of the feminine in you. It's what drew us together. Why can't you embrace it? Normal men don't get voted prettiest in the class, for Christ's sake.
All right, I only wore that dress and pulled those stunts to get in the paper for a girl to notice me.
Ah, yes. Geneva King of Lake Forest, Illinois, whose daddy uttered the fateful words, "Rich girls don't marry poor boys."
Zelda.
Really? Foolproof plan to win the heart of a debutante, Scott. Show her you look better in stockings than she does.
Damn it, Zelda, are we back to this again? I really won't have it. You may be dealing with your own loathsome daydreams or inclinations even, but you will not project them onto me. Do you understand? I said, do you understand? Damn, I just don't know what you want of me, Zelda. 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 Is it happening again?
You know what she calls us?
Who?
Gertrude Stein. She calls us the lost generation.
Calls who?
You, me, Hemingway, Dos Passos, all of us.
She only came up with that because we got sidetracked off the highway on our road trip down the Riviera. It doesn't mean anything. You know that, right? Right?
I didn't know her husband was crazy.
Who's Gertrude Stein?
Edith Wharton. What's wrong with him?
Don't know. Crazy family, they say. Something that got passed down. Zelda?
I have to take a bath.
No, Zelda. Zelda! Zelda, let me in there. Zelda, you can't do this again. I won't go through it again. Zelda! that's it. I'm going out. You stay in that bathroom till doomsday if you like, but I'm going out, you hear me? But maybe I'll go knock on Edith Wharton's door and see if she wants to take that tea right now.
Happiness is beneficial for the body, but it is grief that develops the powers of the mind. Marcel Proust.
Quickly, Grossi. I can't go any faster. EDIE sends these dumpsters straight to the shelves. There! Now I have done it. Throw the feathers clean off. I will be back in the morning.
Well, hurry. We must move diligently.
Diligently. Well, I suppose I never could resist an adverb. They are the only qualifications I much respect.
Not now, Henry. I must concentrate.
Of course, that table requires immediate administration.
Yes.
Your zeal pertains to tidiness alone.
Quite.
It has absolutely nothing to do with Walter coming to call.
Well, if you must know, Walter happened to phone that he is in Paris for the day and wishes to stop by.
Well, this is quite the welcome.
Oh, this is no more than the hospitality I would show any guest.
Well, do not let me interrupt. I only want to be of service. Perhaps I cannot think of ways to entertain him. For instance, what shall you talk about?
Literature, I imagine. He shall be starved for intelligent conversation after all his fare is, and I am eager to discuss French novels. I have never seen writers who can manage romance without stooping to sentimentality like the French. Il n'y a qu'un bonheur dans la vie, c'est d'aimer et d'être-aimé.
Oh, George Sand.
A marvelous woman. And in what other country can one go to her house, look up at the windows, and speculate about which rooms she slept in?
And which room she did not sleep in. You know, George Sand is not so different from these new writers you so lament. After all, she was a woman who dressed like a man.
Hardly the same.
And what of Proust, whom you admire so much? His remembrance of things past routinely depicts men together with women, and women with women, and men with men.
Maybe it just seems more tasteful when the French do it.
Well, perhaps literature is not the best course. Walter is an outdoor type. He may want to discuss something more constitutional.
What?
Oh, you know, nautical.
Henry, what are you prattling on about?
I want you to invite Walter on your Aegean cruise.
I do not have time for this now. You will have to haunt me later.
I cannot leave. I am helping you clean.
Then stay, but please, no more foolishness. Walter and I have been through this all before. Even when we were children, our mothers didn't approve. Mother loved Teddy, however. She must have. She was so overcome by our approaching nuptials, she left my name clear off the invitation.
Yes. Mrs. George Frederick Jones requests the honor of your presence at the marriage of Mr. Edward R. Wharton to her daughter.
But to be fair, she did buy us Pencraig in Newport just to make up for it. Mother did always have the most excellent taste. Best dressed woman in New York, we were often told. By her.
Yes, I hear keeping up with the Joneses is becoming quite the standard saying in certain circles.
Teddy never had to try to keep up at any rate. He was established. Old New York. He achieved through pedigree what Mother could only do through diligence and...
No, bother Teddy and bother your mother. We are discussing Walter. And now, with nothing standing in the way, is it not time you burst up hanging fire?
Rosie? Where is she? I shall have to finish myself.
You know this is not necessary, Edith. Your houses are always breathtaking. You have impeccable taste. Though here's one thing I cannot understand. These heavy curtains. The exact, indulgent kind of excess you railed against in the decoration of houses.
I have amended my view on those. I hated the thought of my mother's set, hidden by their heavy curtains while they peer at the rest of the world, judging. But now I see the value of privacy. And the light, it fades all the furniture if it gets in.
Shall I open them or not?
Which would Walter prefer?
Whichever makes you the most comfortable, I'm sure.
Leave them closed.
Edith, at least promise you will consider it.
Walter and I are friends, Henry. I expect nothing more nor less from him.
Of course.
Walter and I understand one another, that is all.
Without question.
We share a deep, profound, abiding sense of
Love?
sympathy, which shall continue to bind us no matter how far from each other we may roam. But remarriage, that is absolutely positively the furthest thing from my mind.
I never mentioned remarriage.
Henry, I will consider it. Miss, you have a guest. Please show him in.
Mr. Edward Wharton.
What? Edward?
Hello, Edith dear.
Edward, what are you doing here?
I've returned from my trip to Switzerland.
They let you go on your own. Where is your doctor?
Doctor? Why do I need a doctor, dear? Never felt better in my life.
But how did you get here?
I walked. You see, I'm in top shape, except for this toothache. Have I shown you my new gold garters?
Oh,
And now that I'm better, I thought that maybe I could stay for a while, take over our affairs again. I know I had a bad run of it with the finances the last time, but this time
Edward, you are not well.
maybe you and I could be together for a while.
Edward, you should not be here. You are ill. You must go back.
Go back? But why would I go back? Unless I'm wrong. Is that it? My head is wrong, I mean.
Edward.
No, that is it. I'm losing my mind.
Perhaps you should sit down for a moment.
Oh God. They tell me I'm getting better. The specialists.
Oh, the Moliere play I could write about specialists.
What was that?
What, Edward?
I thought I heard a voice. They are wrong, the specialists, about my getting better. I'm not home at all, am I?
Of course you are. Welcome home, Edward.
Home?
Yes, take off your heavy coat. Catherine? Yes? Would you please take Mr. Wharton's coat and then call up the hotel in Switzerland and tell them where Mr. Wharton is, then see about sending a car around to retrieve him.
Right away.
Yes, I am home.
Please sit down. You should rest after your long journey. I shall join you in a moment.
Yes.
Operator. Oui. No. Cut. Merci. Walter. Yes, Edith. Have I caught you before too long? Right, well, something has come up. I'm afraid I cannot see you today, but I'm free tomorrow. Would it be possible to... Leaving in the morning, of course. But you shall come through again soon, I am sure. I see. I understand. It is my fault entirely. The busy authoress. Goodbye, Walter. Come, Edward, let me draw you a bath, then straight to bed. I will have supper brought up to you.
Oh, I do not think that will be necessary. I feel a new man. I really do, Edith. I knew I would feel better after I saw you, and it makes such a difference to be useful. I will be helped with the finances now, won't I?
Of course you will be, Edward, thank you.
There now. Happy to be of service. You see, sometimes a wife still needs her husband.
I am grateful.
I am a good husband.
Edward.
I am a good husband.
Teddy, a car will be here for you this evening, Teddy.
Are they coming to fix my toothache?
You do not have a toothache, your teeth are false.
Oh, well, I suppose I shall have to say goodbye again for a time. You must not be too upset, though. Your Teddy will return to you soon. I know how hard it is for a wife when her husband is away.
It is very hard.
York, New York, remarkable, unspeakable, New York, Henry James, the American Scene.
Come in.
Mr. Scribner, your 4 o'clock is here.
It's 3:15.
She's early. Shall I tell her to wait?
Thank you, that will do. Edith! So lovely to see you as always, and ahead of schedule.
I doubted just an hour would be sufficient to address all the errors I discovered in the proofs for A Sun at the Front.
I can assure you that any such errors are purely in your mind, where I reviewed the proofs myself.
Charles, I hope I do not have to remind you that Appleton has shown interest in the book as well.
I'm surprised to hear you mention it. Of course, I assumed Appleton would be interested after you gave him The Age of Innocence and it won the Pulitzer.
You seem to imply I did you all wrong in that.
Scribners would have, of course, been happy to market your book after our long and fruitful relationship.
How ironic you should mention fruit, since I did give Scribners the fruit of the tree, which by all means should have won the Pulitzer, but instead sank with barely audible.
I'm sorry to hear that you have been so dissatisfied with us.
Oh, come, Charles. I like you more than anyone in publishing. You have integrity and clarity. But that does not mean you sell my books, and I am a businesswoman.
But it is from a business standpoint that we're doing the best by you. Well, we have negotiated the stage rights for several of your novels. They're in rehearsals as we speak.
The stage is the last place for which my writing is suitable. Audiences want something that doesn't exist. A tragedy with a happy ending.
You give them too little credit, Edith.
Oh, they may allow themselves to be harrowed, shocked even, from 8 p.m. to 10:30. But by 11, they want to be reassured that all is well and rot to sleep. But all is not well in the world, and I cannot say it is just to line my pockets. No, it has to be my books, Charles, where at least I may write how I want, even if I cannot write what I want.
Oh, for goodness sake, what do you want to write about, Edith?
What? The war. I want to write about the war. Yet the public wants nothing but nostalgic claptrap and escapism to match the new optimism America is peddling. Progress, moving forward.
The war is over, Edith.
Is it? Ever since the armistice, I wonder. Will it ever be over? Will we ever be us again? But the public will not consider such a question. It isn't nice. So, I gave them The Age of Innocence, and it won the Pulitzer, and it made a lot of money. I am willing to sell out, Charles, but the price needs to be right. That is where you come in.
So you want me to market your books as Appleton does, like tabloid fodder, in between advertisements for vacuums and talcum powder?
They get readers' attention.
They are tacky, Edith, and you know them to be as well. I do not believe you when you say that that is how you want us to market your books. You are far too well bred for that.
The breeding must give way to necessity sometimes, or one falls by the wayside, Charles. That is what I wanted Lily Bart to learn in the House of Mirth. A novel you nearly ruined by insisting I include those garish illustrations. Lily in distress, Lily on the precipice.
Ah, but illustrations sell, Edith. The fact is, despite your desire to sell, a part of you, the best part, I have always thought, would rather lose than win like that.
Perhaps. And it is your job as my publisher to compensate for that tendency.
Believe me, I know what people are saying. I know they think me old-fashioned.
I should say so. Why, you nearly refused to publish The House of Mirth because Lily took tea with a bachelor without a chaperone. Can you imagine such a scene today? Why, she would be on a table gyrating with her tea before anyone even blinked.
But I have been there for you, Edith. Do not give up on us just yet. I will always fight for you. I could bring up that plot of ours on Henry James's behalf, though I would be loath to mention
Would
it.
you loathe to hear it mentioned?
And he wasn't selling any books and was crippled by depression, and you asked me to take out of your royalties a massive advance to offer him for an important American novel. When I offered him the $8,000, he said it seemed strange. But I never gave you away.
But he found out about it anyway, and it almost destroyed our friendship. The moral of the story? The best of intentions are irrelevant. Honor and patriotism are good for novels, but mustard gas wins the war. One wants to keep up with these young writers. One must always have victory in mind.
Edith, you are keeping up. How you are. My young Fitzgerald practically adores you.
Yes, I remember Mr. Fitzgerald well. He wrote a rather scathing caricature of me, if I recall.
Oh, Edith, you are each viewing the other through the wrong end of a telescope.
How do you mean?
He's just trying to get your attention. He's like a child on a diving board. Why, Gatsby screams glimpses of the moon, but all he changed was the ending to a classic dreary Edith Wharton finale. It is as if he wrote the book as he thought you meant it to be written.
Utter nonsense. Well, you know, I did always think imitation the sincerest form of flattery. Do you really think he might look up to me?
Mr. Fitzgerald!
You're my idol!
Mr. Fitzgerald, we are in a meeting, and you are to be meeting with Max Perkins down the hall, yes?
Perhaps, but fate brought me to this office instead to bask in the presence of true genius. Could I let the author of Ethan Frome pass through New York without paying my respects?
Mr. Fitzgerald, that is quite enough. Charles, thank you for your time. I think your current marketing strategy will be quite sufficient.
Are you certain?
I shall see myself out.
Wait, but... Oh! Would now be a good time to discuss my next advance.
Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment with Mr. Scribner?
Tell Charles Edith Wharton is here to see him.
Mrs. Wharton, it's such an honor. I've read your books.
Tell him I am waiting.
Of course. Just a moment.
Come in.
Mr. Scribner, your 4 o'clock is here.
It's 3:15.
She's early. Shall I tell her to wait?
Oh, thank you. That will do. Edith!
Bitch.
I was hoping to see Gordy, maybe 45.
Hello, Mr. Perkins.
Hello, Fanny. Lovely day we're having.
I'll say it is.
Lovely eyes, that Fanny.
You should see your Fanny. So, Scott, you gonna make a trip all the way to New York just to take a dip in the Steno pool? What can I do for you?
Well, I had some new material I wanted to run by you. I want to put flappers on the shelf for a while and try another fantasy in the same vein as The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Ah, yes, interesting story, Benjamin Button. I've been meaning to ask what made you write it.
Oh, a twin quote about the best part of life coming at the beginning and the worst part at the end. See, I wanted to try an experiment with a man who lives perfectly. That is, living life backwards, the main scenes in reverse.
Ah, oh, it's intriguing, no doubt about it. There's just no market right now. wrote all we want about flappers. They pay the bills.
Benjamin Button's good.
Oh, of course it was. I'm not contesting that. I think it will be recognized in time. Maybe even make a great movie.
Don't hold your breath.
Anyway, until then, give the public what they want and save your fantastic heroes for later. There'll be time.
I suppose you're right. Besides, show me a hero and I'll write you a tragedy.
Sure I'm right. Now, what else have you got? Is it Zelda's
Yes.
diary?
Yes, it is.
Not bad. Florid style. Lush almost.
It has some merit. That's what I told her about. My question is, do you think there might be a market for something like this? Say under the title, Diary of a Popular Girl or something.
Well, sure, it's like a glimpse into the life of a flapper. It would fly off the shelves. Doesn't even look like it needs many changes.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Of course, I don't know if just Zelda's name would be enough to get in print. I might have to add you as well, just to make it move, but then I'm sure you would be contributing.
No, you misunderstand me. Zelda doesn't want her name on this at all. It would embarrass her. See, if it flopped, she couldn't take it. She's awfully sensitive about her writing.
Oh?
Yes. Well, I'll still split the advance with her if it gets accepted, of course.
Of course. Let me see what I can do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
I know it's a bother, but the sweet girl has gotten it into her head to try a novel of her own. Save Me the Waltz.
Hmm?
She's thinking of calling it. Now, I don't want to put you through too much trouble, but if you wouldn't mind looking it over, maybe sending her a little note about it.
Of course, I'd be happy to. I'll even be glad to publish it if I think you're ready.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. She probably wouldn't want that anyway. She's far too shy, insecure about her talent and all that. But maybe just a note that says she shows real promise. I ask that you don't critique her too hard or come down like you would on a professional.
Oh, I doubt that will be necessary if what I read here is any indication.
Just let her down easy, Max. That's all I'm asking. Oh, and Max, let me know if any of her material touches on the same episodes from our lives that I was planning on using for Tender as the Night. Being married, we go to so many of the same parties, there's bound to be some overlap, you know? And I don't want to make her look silly. If we write about the same incident, and my version makes hers look... Well, I'm sure I've made myself clear. Am I being clear?
Practically transparent.
I'm glad.
Well, listen, Scott, it's been wonderful catching up, but I really must be getting back to it.
Of course. Thank you for squeezing me in.
I'll get this back to you.
No, take your time. I'm in no hurry.
Oh, and Scott, if you see Hemingway anytime soon, tell him congratulations in advance for me. The Sun Also Rises is going to take the literary world by storm in a few months.
That soon?
Oh, boy, he doesn't turn him out like you, Scott, but when he strikes, it's like a bolt of lightning. You better watch out or he'll eat you alive, you poor son of a bitch.
Well, hi there. Fanny, was it? Well, listen, Fanny. See, I'm stuck here for the rest of the afternoon with nothing much to do, and I was wondering if you had any interest in grabbing a coffee with me?
Oh, I'd love to, Mr. Fitzgerald. I just loved this side of paradise.
Oh.
It's almost my break. Just let me pop in and see if Mr. Scribner is done in there with Mrs. Wharton, and I'll be right back.
Done with
Who?
Mrs. Wharton.
Edith Wharton. He's in that office right now.
Uh-huh. So if you don't mind waiting for just a sec. Mr. Fitzgerald!
You're my idol!
Mr. Fitzgerald, we are in a meeting, and you are to a meeting with Max Perkins down the hall, yes?
Perhaps, but fate brought me to this office instead to bask in the presence of true genius. Could I let the author of Ethan Frome pass through New York without paying my respects?
Mr. Fitzgerald, that is quite enough. Charles, thank you for your time. I think your current marketing strategy will be quite sufficient.
Are you certain?
I shall see myself out. You there. Yes, you. You are what they call what is the phrase? A bright young thing.
I suppose so, Mrs. Wharton.
And what do you think of this Mr. Fitzgerald?
Scott Fitzgerald? Oh, he's very popular and talented too. Why, all the girls I know are just mad for him.
And does he enjoy tea?
Tea? Well, I guess he would. Especially if he were to be invited by someone like you, that he really respected.
Yes, I see what you mean.
You know, I've always dreamed of sitting down to tea with a great author like you, Mrs. Wharton, and just talking about novels and poetry and, oh gosh, all sorts of things.
That will do.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Wharton.
There are no second acts in American lives. F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Here we are, 316.
Say, nice digs, Fitz. I'm glad you were in, Fitz. I haven't seen you in ages. Boy, when I ran into you and Zelda on the Champs-Élysées, you could have knocked me over with a feather.
I am always in for my pal Wharton Campbell. I'm gonna make myself a drink. Camp, that Jake with you?
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Fitz. Now what the heck? That's why you're the famous writer, I guess. Hey, you say it's up to date to drink at 2 o'clock. I guess it must be.
I always need to pick me up this time of day, Camp. Insomnia. A drink is the only thing that wakes me up and puts me to sleep anymore.
How do you know which one it's going to do?
The dosage.
Hey, that's kind of clever.
Now, I got a million of them written down over there in my ledger, outline of my life. I got some neat ideas for my novel in there, too, if you want to hear.
Got any pictures of Zelda in here? Then you could call it Ledger, Outline of My Wife.
Hey!
I thought I heard a man's voice in here.
Oh, how do you do, Zelda?
Awful mean of Scott to try and keep you all to himself, Lawton. Why, he just met you at Princeton, but you and I from Montgomery, and blood is thicker than gin.
Wow, that is some get-up.
Isn't it cute? I'm masquerading as myself.
Now, what do you mean by that, I wonder? Why, Zelda, your dress is burned.
Here's that drink, Camp.
I would say, don't you want to shake those fits?
No. I always stir. In this household, we do not bruise our gin.
No, just our wives.
Zelda, what happened to your eye?
Oh, clumsy me. Walked into a door, or fell down the stairs, or Scott hit me in the face. It was the stairs.
It's in the face, sure. Well, eye or no eye, you're just glowing. Both of you. Now, when I passed y'all on the street, I thought, who's this handsome couple that looks like they just stepped out of the sun?
I designed that get-up myself. It's my Joan of Arc dress.
Let's hope you don't end up like her.
Oh, it wouldn't be so bad.
Zelda, Joan of Arc was burnt at the stake.
At least she got to be tied up first. And this is my Elizabeth Arden face. They used it for the cover of Hearst International. Send you a copy if you like.
And how? That is, if it's Jake with you, Scott.
Sure, Jake.
You know, it's not just the clothes, though. There's something electric about you, Zelda. Maybe it's that new Marcel wave.
Well, I did drop the baby weight from Scotty, and Scott was so relieved. He didn't like his wife losing her figure at all.
You lose your figure, go on.
It's true. Scott likes me looking just like I did when he carried me to New York. Thin, pink, and helpless.
Fitz, you sly old fox.
Well, Well, you know women, Cam. Sometimes they just want a man who will throw them over their shoulder and just whisk them away.
That fact, Zelda.
Well, I suppose that depends if you believe Sabine women will break tonight.
I see. Now, what's a Sabine woman?
Anyway, I can see why Scott would choose New York. So many captains of industry to rub elbows with, and money matters to him so.
Well, the rich are different than you and me, Cam.
How's that?
They have more money.
Oh, I forgot all about that joke. Funniest thing Ernest ever said. That man is nothing if not quotable.
Oh, that's Hemingway. No, if you just give him over the fence.
Yeah.
Oh, they have more money. That's a good one.
You want to hear a good one? You remember when Scott and I toured Rome?
Rome.
Yeah, she got it into her head to see Italy after reading Roderick Hudson by Henry James. Says she can't stand those old writers, but can't wait to go wherever they tell her.
Oh, listen to Scott. Did you know he's thinking of adding a scene about a golden bowl in Tender is the Night?
Okay,
Just like that Henry James novel. Oh, what's it called? The Golden Bowl?
That's nothing, dear. I'm just paying my respects.
Well, pay any more respects and you'll get sued for plagiarism.
What'd you think, Zelda?
Of what?
Of Rome.
Oh, Rome. Well, I can sum it up for you in a sentence. See, we wrote a letter to Max Perkins, my publisher, over at Scribner's, and you know what it said?
It said Roman ruins are better in France. I thought of it. Wasn't it clever?
What a win on this one. Go on.
One time, someone asked me if The Beautiful and Damned was based on me and Scott. But you know what I said? Well, tell him, Scott.
She said...
I said, you bet it is, because I'm beautiful and Scott's damned.
Oh, how beautiful and he's damned. This little lady sure can't turn afraid. Hey, Fitz, maybe she should take a crack at writing a novel.
Well, wouldn't that just be a lark? Maybe Edith Wharton can write me a letter of congratulations over my latest novel.
Just got a telegram from Edith Wharton over Gatsby.
You don't say. What did it say in the telegram?
Ah, who can recall? She's passé. She only beat Sinclair Lewis for the Pulitzer in '23 because the committee pulled some strings for her. Yeah, Lewis calls it the Main Street robbery. Not sure she wasn't behind it herself.
You think Main Street deserved it over Age of Innocence?
Maybe. It's not a bad novel, Main Street.
I just read his latest, Babbitt 2. Dedicated it to Wharton herself, come to think of it. Damn fine book.
Damn fine.
I thought you called Babbitt Rotten. Oh, no, I must be mistaken. How could a novel that sells 300,000 copies be rotten after all? By the way, Scott, how many copies did Gatsby sell? 50,000, was it? No, wait. 49?
How's that rash, Zelda?
Rash.
Oh, Zelda's got a rather nasty case of eczema. Covers her whole chest. Bit of an affliction. Really.
More of a nuisance and losing its hold over me. Every day I work it out of my system a little more. In answer to your question, Martin, writing simply is not a viable pursuit at the moment. Why, I'm a wife and mother, and I have a home to take care of, and I get my kicks cooking and cleaning just like everyone else.
Well, Zelda, that's good to hear. So many women are dissatisfied nowadays. But still, that doesn't mean you can't branch out, try new things now and then. Say, I heard you were taking French lessons. Or was it flying lessons?
Both, actually. I stopped. I did have a few ideas for a novel, but they didn't pan out. Scott's the writer in the family. Did you know he was named after his cousin, Francis Scott Key, who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner? I mean, if your name is a hand-me-down from someone that famous, you're bound to accomplish something or other.
Did you start writing young, Fitz?
No, not seriously until college, actually.
It was after Princeton dropped him from the football team.
Fitz went out for football.
Sure he did. Cut the first day, though. Too small.
Well, you know what they say about Princetonians who aren't any good at football. They become famous writers.
Who says that?
All right, dear.
Oh, wait. I do remember something. Only when I heard it, it was, what happens to Princetonians who are good at football?
What's that?
They become
Zelda!
Anyway, I'm taking a bath again. I'm doing a picture in the bathroom right now. Scotty's out with the nanny, so I borrowed some of her crayons.
Oh, you borrowed Scotty's crayons.
Hey, you want to see some of my pictures from the war, Cap?
Sure, Fitz.
There's me at Camp Sheridan, in uniform. And there's the entire division. What do you think of this one here?
Well, that's a man with his head blown away.
Yeah.
Is everything all right, Fitz?
Yes. Everything's fine. Zelda's just a little under the weather. We both are. The bills are stacking up, and the novel's taking longer than I'd hoped, but I'm confident that in a month or so I'll have a first draft knocked out that will take the literary world by storm, as it were. Zelda, did you do this?
Maybe.
I'm so sorry, Camp. She's
Oh, no, it's good.
What is it?
Picture. A naked figure in a giant champagne glass. Flat chest, bobbed hair. Almost can't tell the sex or age at all. It might be a self-portrait. Might be you. Scotty even. Huh.
I haven't bobbed my hair in quite some time.
You know what's funny? The way the figure's positioned, on its knees, peering out over the rim. You think she's having a ball or trying to escape?
Oh.
That's some gift your wife has.
Yeah, I've noticed that recently.
What?
Zelda's going crazy and calling it genius. And I'm going broke and calling it whatever comes to mind.
Oh, damn it all, Fitz. I didn't realize it was getting so late. I gotta run. I have an appointment. Stop by again soon.
Of course, old man, anytime you like.
Well then. Oh, and Fitz. Tell Zelda I said goodbye.
Zelda. What is it?
The mania. What I feel when we're at a party. When I lift up my skirt and dance. When we do something crazy. It's gone.
What's wrong?
I used to think that this feeling, that this vacancy inside of me, that it was just a slip, that I'd gone under. But at any moment I could break the surface again. But what if this is it? What if this is lucidity? What if this is when I'm seeing things clearly and it's the other me that's the fake who doesn't really exist?
Zelda.
I don't know if I can bear it.
Zelda, it's all right.
Oh, God. Am I cracking up?
Zelda.
I don't want to lose my mind.
Zelda. Zelda. We'll get through this. I'll stop drinking so much. I promise. You can paint if it helps.
It helps. Anything helps. Anything where I can express myself.
Then paint you shall. I'll even have a chat with Max Perkins on my trip to New York next week. We'll see what we can do about getting some work of yours published under your own byline.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Goofo, you are my one true jelly bean. You really are.
Always.
And I'm your Sally.
Sally.
For I'm a salamander. The mythical salamander who can walk through flames and emerge unscathed. As long as I help you.
There are two ways of spreading light. To be the candle or the mirror that reflects it. Edith Wharton.
I'm so pleased you could join me and Mr. Fitzgerald for tea, Mr. Chandler. Your mother is one of my oldest and dearest friends. Shall I have Grossi take your coat?
It's a bit drafty.
Of course. Well, if you will follow me, we shall take tea in the garden.
There aren't too many flowers, are there? Allergies, you see.
I shall be sure to seat you furthest from them. Oh, we seem to have lost Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Chandler, continue right through these doors and we shall join you in a moment. Mr. Fitzgerald!
Hi, Mrs. Wharton. I was
Mr. Fitzgerald, where are you, Mr. Fitzgerald?
What a lovely library, Mrs. Wharton. I like your bookends even better than Mother's.
So glad to hear you say so, Mr. Chandler. Please give your mother my regards.
Oh, I will do that. Shall I wait for Scott?
I believe Mr. Fitzgerald has found his own way out. Goodbye, Teddy. Please feel free to visit any time.
Goodbye.
Shame about this base, Edie. And in the family for generations. Was your mother's favorite, you know.
It certainly is, Grossi. It certainly is. A loss.
I will. Ugly old thing. Did I miss something in there?
I shall be in here writing until then. Oh, and Grossi. It was a bright morning of midwinter in New York. The little girl who eventually became me, but as yet was neither me nor anybody else in particular, was going for a walk with her father.
To tea, Teddy Chandler and Scott Fitzgerald, the novelist. Horrible.
You startled me.
Why horrible?
I took your suggestion. I thought I would give Mr. Fitzgerald some advice. Give him an introduction, as you said. To myself, Daisy's son Teddy, a rather taciturn young man, you know, and then Scott Fitzgerald. Teddy and I got along quite well. But Mr. Fitzgerald, I fear, is simply unfit for public appearances.
It is like a nightmare version of your tableau vivant scene in the House of Mirth.
At least Lily Bart had the good sense to die before witnessing the vapidity of the next generation. Poor Lily. All the weapons at her disposal to get what she wants, but she cannot bring herself to play as others play to win.
Your pay as others pay. She is your greatest triumph as an author.
Stemming from my greatest weakness as a human, to have ambitions and morals. like a bird with gills or a fish with wings, to be marked by nature for demolition.
A backward glance. You have returned to your memoir. It looks as though you are just beginning it.
I am ending it. I have been writing the memoir in reverse. The first chapter is the last.
Backward quite literally. And the reason?
Distant past is more difficult to remember. It takes longer to capture accurately. What?
Is it that the past is more difficult to capture accurately, or simply to present in a tasteful, sanitized light? Only as we get older can we be accused of making up reality.
And I have been accused of making up since I was a little girl. Mother was always at her wit's end, and father smiling his secret smile. When he let me into his library, it became my own private garden. That is how I came to love books.
Using them as a substitute for human contact.
I like to love, but not to be loved back, so a book is ideal. I have never felt smothered by a book yet.
Then you have never read Tolstoy.
Well, at any rate, Scribner's is chomping at the bit for my memoir, so I really
Scribner,
must...
he was the old dodo. And that is what they call him, and good reason. He shall soon be extinct. The world is changing, Edith.
Well, what of it? What would you have me do?
Well, look forward, Edith, not backward. Stop dealing in euphemism and write the truth before you end up like Mrs. Astor.
Oh, I think Mrs. Astor did just fine for herself.
Until the nouveau riche arrived and blew the 400 to pieces, and people stopped going to her balls, and she became outdated and senile.
Well, that is what happens if you fall out of step. To lose track of time is to lose one's sanity. You know, it is strange to hear you speak of candor, since that is the opposite of what you have always practiced.
And look at me! Do you think I like being a ghost? I feel like something out of my own story to turn on the screw!
Then I release you.
It is not that simple.
Henry, I am at a loss. Well, you say I am to read Fitzgerald's book. You say I am to invite Walter on my cruise. I don't know what it is you want.
I want you to live.
And how will you know when I am living? Shall you take my post?
Do not joke, Edith.
Who is joking? I am quite seriously amazed at your hypocrisy. Has it occurred to you that perhaps there is more to your being here than passively awaiting some epiphany on my part? That there is something you must do as well?
Of course. You are absolutely correct.
Well, good.
Edith, I must apologize to you.
Apologize?
All of our correspondence through the years, the letters we promised to burn. Well, I burned, you never did.
How did you know I never...
Ghost.
Oh.
I've had nothing but time to look over them again now. Edith, some of the things I wrote you, horrible things that I regret. Putting your writing down, discouraging you.
Henry, what on earth do you mean? Why, no one has shown me more support than you did. Why, it was you before anyone who insisted I do the American subject, do New York.
Because I was doing Europe.
Oh.
I could not risk us sharing material. What if your treatment were equal to mine? Or worse? What if it were better? You, a popular writer, and a woman. I am ashamed that when I discovered your plot with Scribner, I tried to end our friendship. But my code, our code, the same one you live by, would not allow me to accept your kindness. To just be happy. And there is something else, Edith. Something that I'm must tell you.
Henry, what is it?
I am afraid I have been deviant in my passions, and I fear you will not approve.
Approve? What on earth do you mean?
Well, it is just that, in remembrance of things past, you were so effusive about everything but Proust's subject matter.
Women carrying on torrid affairs with other women is beneath such talent.
But my circle at Quieca, the artists I surrounded myself with, Howard and Ogden and our handsome literary critic, Morton Fullerton, mere boys.
Well, what is more natural than seeking companions of one's own intellectual stead? That is hardly devious.
Edith, my meeting with Wilde. I was not repulsed by our differences, but by a kind of recognition. He had a large yellow silk handkerchief and apologized that he would have to leave soon to meet a friend. in Boston.
Well, of course you are different. Your consonants are impeccable.
I prefer the company of men.
Well, who doesn't?
Edith!
Henry, I have heard enough. You say you have something to tell me, something I need to know, but I do not need to know anything because I know you. That you are the most splendid, magnificent man I ever met. And I will not tolerate anyone calling you or anything you love unnatural, least of all you. Now you will stop this instant.
All right. You know, some scholars are contesting the original translation of Proust's title, but it is not a remembrance of things past at all.
What is it?
In search of lost time.
Yes, that is right. All these years, I have tried to capture the quality of living in my novels. But life is nothing like a novel, is it? There is no structure, no build. If there is a climax, it happens early. Only life lacks the keen grasp of plotting to end soon after. It goes on and on and on. And one is left utterly at a loss how to fill all those blank, terrifying pages.
Edith, if anyone can, it is you. Why, every time you descended on Lamb House for a visit, you sent the help steadying for cover, leaving me to cower in the open like some poor barnyard fowl that scents the shadow of a great firebird directly overhead. And you would snatch me up in your talons, toss me in the back of your chariot of fire, and with Walter up front, off we would go on some adventure. Much to my occasional panic, you can do anything.
But that is exactly it. I have spent too long in transit, driving from place to place, never just inhabiting. And now, look at me, an expatriate everywhere.
You are a citizen of the page. Write a world you feel at home in.
I did try to write a memoir like that once. I called it Life and I. But it is only a fragment now. It seems that anything really true in writing or in life can only exist as a fragment. And at some point, you resolve yourself to nobody watching it and lock it away.
You still hold the key.
Oh, it makes no difference. I am amazed at the public's density of incomprehension. It never bothered me before, but now that my work draws to a close, I feel it is either nothing or far more than they know.
Let them try.
They want to be scandalized, Henry. Only dirty cells. Oh, what interest could I have?
I have read some of your fragments, Edith. Beatrice Palmato, for instance.
You read?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
And what did you think?
Bold. A bit sensational at times. The suspicious mother catching the daughter and father together was expertly crafted. But her descent into madness seemed a bit heavy-handed. All in all, exceptionally authentic, though of course destined to remain a fragment.
And?
Yes?
Dirty?
Oh. Dirty.
Truly.
It's filthy, my dear.
Oh, I am gratified.
It should be outlawed if it ever came to light.
Well, there you see. Growing old does not mean one stops living. We all have our strange interludes, our dark secrets. Why, I have had an affair.
With whom?
Morton Fullerton.
Ah. And I have had an affair as well.
With whom?
Morton Fullerton. What are you doing?
Oh, I am feeling inspired. I should like to try and finish a backward glance this evening. You are welcome to stay, of course.
Delighted. I marvel you can see anything at all in this dim light.
Oh, I suppose my sight is not what it once was.
My dear, A girl at 25 would have trouble seeing in this pristine crypt.
I suppose I could part the curtains. Just a touch.
Perhaps. Just this once. It is beneficial to be reckless now and then.
Oh, Henry, what would I do without you?
Without me? Why, you never shall be. And if you should ever seem to sense it, please thus feel my arms open at their very widest, and then close about you at their very tenderest.
Henry. Goodbye, Henry. Going for a walk with her father. The episode is literally the first thing I can remember about her, and therefore I date the birth of her identity to that day. Life and I.
The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong in broken places. But those that will not break, it kills. A farewell to arms.
Don't wake me. It's the first time I've slept in weeks.
Bill!
I'm sick.
Bill!
I think I'm dying.
Bill!
It's tuberculosis.
Bill!
Or it's a hangover.
Huh.
Oh,
Now here's something.
what's that?
Letter, Edith Wharton.
Give it to me. Give it to me. Mr. Fitzgerald, touched it, you're sending me a copy of Gatsby, a leap over your previous work. And congratulate you and your character of Wolfsheim on your invention of the perfect Jew.
Oh my God!
Present quarrel with you only this. To make Gatsby truly great, ought to have given us his early career instead of a short resume. Can't appreciate a character's present tragedy without intimate knowledge of his past. But you'll tell me that's the old way, and consequently not your way. Edith Wharton. I need a drink.
The witch! The condescending old witch! Wait, this needs to be commemorated. March 17th, Edith Wharton Witch. Hey, how do you spell Wharton?
Huh?
How do you spell Wharton?
W-A-R.
Oh, look. It's all the title ideas for new books. The Skin of His Teeth. Wore Out His Welcome. Dark Circles. Dated. Sense in the Train.
Zelda.
Now here's something else.
Zelda, don't.
What's this? What the hell is this?
Zelda.
No, it's
Zelda.
as tender as the night. Wanda, brother depressed, suicide after repeated nightmares of killing mother, work matricide into malarkey subplot, history of mental illness in Wanda's entire family.
Zelda, listen.
Extended thoughts of patricide after Wanda is raped by her father, age 15. Second pregnancy immediately following birth of daughter.
Wait,
Driven mad with guilt over decision. Driven mad with guilt over decision to abort. How could you do this?
They're just notes for a book I've been thinking of writing.
You know what they are. I'm surprised you haven't been quoting my diary directly. Like Gloria to Anthony in The Beautiful and Damned. You're so clean, you're sort of blowy clean like I am. There's two sorts. One's clean like pots and pans, and you and I are like streams and winds.
Just because you have a mania for cleanliness and
If
baths
I do, it's because
mean-
I feel so dirty all the time. We got dirty somehow along the way, you and me.
Zelda, every author writes from experience, writes what he knows.
Seems more like you write what I know to me and what I say and write.
You don't write!
If I don't, it's because you won't let me. What happened to my name getting left off the byline for our own movie queen in the Chicago Tribune? Was that Max Perkins' idea or yours?
Zelda, that was only to sell the magazine, because I'm the recognizable name. I still split the money with you.
Well, maybe I'll just have to make a name for myself.
Zelda, you have a gift for language. But my strength is putting it to the page.
I can put it to the page too, Scott. But every time I try, you say I'm exploiting our common experiences together, even though every author should write what he knows.
God, I'm tired of this.
Oh, right. God forbid my needs ever get addressed. Out of bed or in it.
What? All right, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but you know why you're not a writer? I've shown your novel around, and everyone thinks it's too florid and erratic. Your writing shifts from realism to excessive philosophizing with no rhyme or reason.
Even my short stories.
Your short stories are even worse. They're lopsided. They all begin at the end, and they won't sell. That's the truth.
I could get better. I could make them sell. With encouragement. You don't want me to have my own voice.
That is not true.
Oh, no? Remember these? All my old, beautiful organdy dresses. You said they made you fall in love with me in little old backwoods Montgomery, but the second we were married, you made me pack them away. Insisted I get new clothes and look up to date in author's life. Pinks and lavenders, do you remember ruffles? What shall I model them for
Would you stop it?
I want you enjoying it. Let me show you something else. Remember this? The smart suit you got me the day we arrived. You said it looked so sophisticated on me. And I told you I lost it, but I locked it in the trunk with the rest of my old clothes. I mean, if the malls can have my organy, what's a suit do?
That's enough! Zelda, you cannot keep behaving like this. You're making spectacles of us.
What? Me? Okay, fine, I'll make spectacles of us. Isn't that what you wanted? The perfect, outrageous flapper wife. You're a bob-hair bandit. Only that's just it, isn't it? You liked it when I flirted as long as I did it to make you happy. But the second you suspected I did anything to make myself happy, it threatened you. You hated it and you had to destroy it.
Zelda, you cannot interfere with my career. If you ruin me, what becomes of you? A faded debutante who was breastfed till she was 4?
I was happy in Montgomery, Scott. I didn't need you to rescue me. My debut was the event of the season.
And you said it yourself. What's a debut but the first time a girl is seen drunk in public?
I wouldn't go attack another's pedigree if I were you, Scott. Glass houses and all that.
I grew up on Summit Avenue, the most celebrated district in St. Paul.
In the very last house on the street. Just before you turn the corner and everything becomes common again. But with my writing,
You couldn't make $50 on your writing. You're just a useless society woman.
That's what you want me to be?
Yes, I want it. I want you to flirt with any man who comes around. No, I love the story of Dos Passos fighting off your advances atop a Ferris wheel. Or how your affair with the greasy French pilot is practically common knowledge.
It was not an affair.
Come off the roof already. Everyone knows it. It's disgusting.
It's what I had to do. You have no confidence. You won't belong to any club that'll have you. I was giving you what you needed for us to function. A chase.
So, you cheated on me for my benefit.
Say what you want. But had I let you know how fully you had my love, and all my love, you would have walked out years ago. Oh, but you don't understand love, only money.
Right. Sometimes I forget that the sordid topic of coin is below you. Remind me, Zelda, when did you agree to marry me?
What?
I want the date.
I know what you're doing. I'm not gonna...
When?
5 years ago. Sometime in April, but...
It was 1 week after This Side of Paradise was published. For 2 years, I threw myself at your feet. I gave you my love, my soul. I offered you all of me, and you kept it at arm's length. But the thing that got the ring on your finger was one fat advance. So if I happen to think that a woman will always care more about what's in my pocket than what's in my heart, then how did I get that way, Zelda? How did I get that way?
I waited because I knew you couldn't be happy until you made success on your own. Had I agreed to marry you sooner, you would have grown restless after the glitter wore off and held it against me. I'm no gold digger, so stop making me the enemy. We're not at war.
You're saying that because you think you're winning.
It's a marriage, Scott. There are no winners.
Zelda, true words have never been spoken.
Well, it sounds like maybe you just hate women.
Because you are all such bitches!
I have never been unfaithful to you, Scott. Not once. Not in the true sense. I swear there was never another man.
If it were only men, then it wouldn't be so vile. It's what other people insinuate when they see you dancing with other women.
So it comes to this, does it? You force me to fend for myself at parties. But if I actually manage to make friends, you have to turn it into something perverted. Well, you will not project your own forbidden desires onto me, Scott.
What are you trying to say?
And if I did seek extramarital fulfillment, I wouldn't necessarily be unmerited, would I? I mean, it's not like you've ever been able to really satisfy me, is it?
Maybe you are a lesbian.
And what about fairies, Scott? You claim to despise them, yet you're fascinated by them. Like your letter to Bunny, I long to go with a young man for a paid amorous weekend to the coast, deed calling to deed.
That was only a...
Oh, I'm not judging you for that, but a paid weekend. Did you really think you'd have to pay for it?
God, Hemingway was right. You are crazy.
Oh, Hemingway. You think I care what he says about me?
You're just jealous.
Of what? A rugged adventurer? A big game hunter? Sportsman? Professional He-Man? A pansy with hair on his chest?
Zelda, don't say that.
What about
That's
the time you
slanderous.
disappeared for an hour to the bathroom to compare sizes with Ernest?
That was because of you. You always try to make me feel insufficient, and I wanted his clinical opinion.
Really? He was just giving you his clinical opinion for an hour? Well, what did he say?
That there was nothing wrong with me. He said that you're crazy, and you're using this as a way to distract me from my writing. This and your lesbian affair.
Oh, that's rich! He can put it in his next book. He can call it bullfighting, bullslinging, and bullshit.
Zelda, please. Please. Say anything you want. But lay off Ernest.
Lay off, Ernest. Why don't you two just sleep together and get it over with? What a couple of flames. Burn it all. Burn everything. Burn the past, burn the future, burn it all.
Zelda, what are you doing?
I'm throwing my clothes in the tub. They need to be clean like the wind.
Zelda!
Now I'm striking a match!
Zelda! Zelda, let me in there! Zelda! Zelda? Zelda? Zelda, let me in there! Zelda! Zelda, get out of my way! Zelda, get out of my way! Zelda!
I wrote you a letter long ago saying that we were soulmates. But each day I feel the girl who wrote that letter slipping away. And we console ourselves with money, fame, and parties, but nothing ever comes close to that first rush of love. Some people can live like that, but not me, Scott. Not me. I have to love first and live incidentally. Without that, I'll come undone. I just know it. Look. Look. It's been spreading for weeks, but it started here, just over my heart. Do you see it? Please, do you see it?
It's ruined. They all are, but at least the fire's out.
Man put it out this time, but we can't be on our guard forever. Everything burns eventually. And when it does, that fire will consume you. And then it's coming for me.
Zelda, it's not as bad as all that. It's still the boom.
And all booms end in a crash. We can leave the country, but we can't escape it, Scott. America's headed straight for it. And when the belt is tied again, there'll be nothing but time to look back on our wasted youth. Oh, Scott. We are America.
Zelda. There'll be nothing but time to look back on our wasted youth.
You must send your dear mother my regards, Mr. Chandler. It seems like ages since I last saw Daisy.
I barely see her myself. Mother's usually too busy for me.
And Teddy here is too busy writing sad poetry to have much time for anyone, I'm afraid. This must be the first time he's seen the light of day in weeks.
What a shame. Please be seated, both of you.
Speaking of Daisy, I must thank you again for your letter about Gatsby. Such a treat.
Of course. As I said, I thought Daisy Buchanan one of the most honest and frightening portraits of modern woman in today's letters.
I'm happy to hear it.
Her slash and burn mentality reminded me of my own heroine, Undine Spragg, in The Custom of the Country.
Oh?
Yes. In fact, I think studying Undine could have helped you, in fact. You see, Daisy is too much a character. Undine is a spirit of an age. She cannot be dismissed. What people need today is a tragic and violent awakening. An author who does not provide it is being remiss.
Please.
Yes, before it gets cold, lukewarm tea is bad for my constitution.
At any rate, I suppose you're right, Mrs. Wharton.
Oh, Edith, please.
Edith. Gatsby could have done with another draft, I suppose.
Oh, quite. It is so unfortunate how your generation pounds out books like they are something to be gotten through, and how the public devours them, suffers from indigestion, and falls asleep.
And yet, what is one to do? Zelda and I were in Rome when I was trying to revise, you see, and with all the parties, and the critics, and the fairies just waiting to tear you apart if you miss a deadline, or seem to be falling out of step at all.
Fairies?
Oh, yes, I really should watch my vernacular, but you know, the fairies are everywhere, and they really should be taken into consideration.
I did not know that was a term in wide circulation.
You know it.
Walter always, that is, I have heard it used by a friend. They seem to follow him wherever he goes.
Doesn't surprise me. There's really no way around them these days.
And do you care for them yourself?
No, not me. No, I can't stand the fairies. But can you?
Well, I do confess I find them rather taxing.
Oh, those high-pitched voices.
Quite.
And their inane squealing.
Precisely.
And those pretentious little mustaches.
Oh, yes, those pretentious little mustaches.
Waxed into those tiny, insufferable points like darts.
I'm afraid I don't follow.
Of course, if your friend is always surrounded by fairies, I may assume he's a fairy as well.
Mr. Fitzgerald, how can a man be a fairy?
I ask myself the same question every day. I really do. And every time I see one of them at a petting party or somewhere, I get sick to my stomach. I knew we were two of a kind. I have a New England conscience developed in Minnesota.
And is that where fairies go?
To Minnesota?
No, to these petting parties.
Oh, sure, yes. Yeah, you see them there all the time. Well, not you, per se. That is, I don't suppose you've ever been to a petting party.
No, I'm afraid not. Good. Although I am an avid dog enthusiast.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Everybody needs a hobby.
I'm allergic to dogs.
At any rate, I suppose the fairies are to be tolerated. You say what you want, you can't sell too many books without them, and one is hardly an author without a bestseller under his belt.
Some would say that the true test of an author is not having a bestseller, that it is proof of authentic literary merit to go unappreciated by the masses.
I know the type. Poor authors consoling themselves that failure is somehow proof of their own genius. I can't stand that type. Thank God our books sell well, and our short stories make up for it when they don't. By the way, have you got any sugar?
One lump?
2. I always take my tea with 2 lumps in it. And now for the nib. Say that, that's a lovely smell you get staggering up here from down the mountainside, Edie. Like honeysuckle and army leather? Must be all the soldiers loitering around the Nickelodeons and brothels.
I am told you served in the war.
Oh, sure, yes, second lieutenant.
That takes a noble kind of man.
I suppose it would, but I never got over. It's just as well. I would have deserted in a second given half a chance. It takes a certain kind of man to want to defend his country. You know, the man with nothing else on his plate. And then it takes a man like me to write about it. And a man like Chandler to put it to music. Now, would you fight, Teddy? All right, so maybe Teddy here would fight, but that's because he's trying to outrun the melancholia. It's in the name, you know.
The name?
Sure, Teddy. Kind of an unstable name. No offense, Chandler, my boy, but it sort of goes with crazy. You know, naming a boy Teddy is just asking for trouble. What do you think, Edie?
Mrs. Teddy Wharton.
Well, of course, I suppose it depends what country you're being asked to lay down your life to protect. Maybe for France, I would feel differently. I can see why you love it so much. It's not nearly as uptight as the States. I have a good story to illustrate. Maybe you two can figure out who it's about. So, a young American couple arrived in Paris from New York. He, a writer, she, a writer's wife. Having no place to stay, they wandered the streets and stopped at the first hotel they saw. And all went well. At first. But soon, the writer began to notice something strange about the hotel. There was noise and people coming and going at all hours, and the couple could not convince any of their new acquaintances to come and call. Finally, after 2 weeks, the writer followed the proprietor into her office and demanded an explanation. Madam, I want to know how you intend to keep your establishment afloat if you insist on running it like a bordello. To which the woman replied, "But sir, how else should I run my establishment? It is the finest bordello in all of Paris." It is the finest bordello in all of Paris.
Mr. Fitzgerald, I must protest. Your narrative lacks data, and you have omitted one major plot point altogether.
What's that?
You have not told us what the couple did in the bordello.
Did?
Certainly. The subject has always fascinated me. Well, that is why I chose to live at the Pavilion Cologne. Oh, did you not know?
Know what?
Why, that it was a house of courtesans. Whores in your vernacular. As soon as I heard, I knew I had to have it. I find it a constant source of inspiration in my writing. I simply think of all those women languishing on beds in every room, and all the strange comings and goings. Oh, but now I can see that I have shocked you. You really must excuse me. Sometimes I forget in mixed company which topics are age appropriate.
What's so funny?
Don't you see? She beat you.
What of it?
In all my life, I've never laughed so hard.
I'm afraid I've been ignoring you frightfully, Teddy. Why don't we step into the library and you can tell me more of your composing?
With pleasure. God, it's been lively. But what did they do in the bordello?
Shall you stay and finish your libations outside, Mr. Fitzgerald?
I believe I will. Such a lovely day. I'm far too lovely to stay inside where it's stuffy.
I see. Well, call if you need anything.
My apologies for jostling it. I know how important it is that every object remain in its place.
I believe I value consistency no more nor less than you value immediate gratification. My one defense is that my values are easier on the porcelain.
You know what's the matter with you, Edie?
No, Mr. Fitzgerald, but I've often wondered, what is it?
It's that I bet you've never broken anything in your life just for the hell of it.
I see. And the matter with you, Mr. Fitzgerald, is that I doubt you have ever left anything intact just for the change of pace. Now, if you will excuse me, I shall direct Mr. Chandler to the library. If you should chance not to be here when I return, I will quite understand.
Wait, I didn't mean, I wasn't trying. It's horrible, isn't it?
Horrible.
Yes. I suppose it's what makes a writer in the end, but isn't it horrible to be able to capture life so perfectly on the page after the fact, but never to be able to just say what you mean in the moment when it might make a difference.
Yes, Mr. Fitzgerald. That is the horrible thing. Excuse me.
Walter Berry did not accompany Edith on her Aegean cruise. He passed away a year later, and Teddy Wharton photographed. Until her death in 1936, Edith never remarried. In 1940, Scott was in the midst of writing his final novel when he suffered a massive heart attack and collapsed. He was eating a chocolate bar at the time. He was 44 years old. Zelda spent her remaining years in and out of Highland Hospital, a mental facility. In 1948, a fire broke out and quickly spread to the upper floors, where Zelda was locked in the attic, awaiting electroshock therapy. She and 8 other women burned in the flames. During the Depression, Edith Wharton and F. Scott Fitzgerald fell largely out of fashion. Their social novels, dismissed as irrelevant as gritty political realism, came increasingly into vogue. Today, they are considered 2 of the greatest and distinctly American authors of the 20th century.
Miss! Clean it up. Oh,
Yes, Miss.
Wait.